Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're joined by one of my favorite companies called Vapi, who's the leading platform when it comes to voice AI. And today, we really want to dive deep into voice AI and understand what that means and how we can build a truly human interface. Quick agenda for today. We're going to talk about why voice AI matters. We're going to dive into how that looks like in production. We're going to have an awesome demo from Nikhil, and then we're going to kick it off to the fireside chat. I'm your host, Marius, and I'm part of the applied AI team at Anthropic. And many of you don't know, but I used to build a voice AI company myself. And that's how I got the pleasure to meet Nikhil, who's one of the OGs when it comes to voice AI. He's part of the early YC batches that were pioneering voice AI for all of us, and really kind of open up the gate there for kind of delivering a true human interface. Nikhil, really awesome to have you here. We'd love to give the audience a quick intro from you, and you can take it from here.
Thanks, Marius. That's very kind. I think a fun fact that Marius did not tell you is we also used to go to the same gym, and he has a great routine and a great physique. We, as Marius mentioned, met. We were the early renegades in voice AI. He built a premier company in evaluating voice agents. A bit about me and our background story as Vapi. We started 3 years ago in sort of a funny coincidence because Jordan and I, my co-founder, we were pivoting. We were kind of depressed. In that depression, Jordan built his AI therapist to go on walks with. No one wanted the AI therapist, but people loved the voice experience that we had built. And that gave us the insight to build a platform that enables other people to build voice agents into their product. And that became Vapi. To share a bit more about us, we're an enterprise platform to deploy voice AI agents in call centers. Probably one of the most deployed voice AI platforms out there. We have done over 1 billion calls, have hundreds of thousands of developers, supported hundreds of thousands of developers, and people usually come to us because out of the box we'll give them a great experience on latency. I think all of you have heard of Anthropic, I bet, but I'll let Marius also give a sentence on what is Anthropic.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for the opportunity, Nikhil. I always like to remind people of how Anthropic started. We started as an AI lab focused on safety and reliability, and I want to point people of looking through this and seeing how important it is to building voice AI agents.
Thank you. To just start off, why voice AI? I bet for me and a lot of you here, voice AI is cool. Trying to make computers talk like people is just so fun. It feels like obviously the future. But to even ground this in the world and what everyone in the world experiences, if for 80% of people, they still want to just reach a business when they need urgent help. And it's hard. It's there's long wait times, the experience sucks. On the other side, for these businesses, it's really hard to give us real-time help over a call because these jobs are very unhappy. Most people who are in these call center jobs, they turn over around 40% every year. And now voice AI is finally ready. I'm sure you've all seen this curve of exponential intelligence. The agents that we can build today couldn't have been built a year ago. It's an incredible time, and very glad to be here talking about what is the future, what is all the possibility in voice AI agents. A bit about Vapi and how we help people. There's the models. Models are amazing. Our mission is to help people, these companies, build their human interface, because give them the primitives that are flexible, adaptable, for them, they can toy it together, have complete ownership over the agent, and test and iterate in hours, so they don't have to go into bespoke maybe solutions which don't give them the flexibility to really tweak what they want. I'm just guessing for a lot of you, you have a very good idea of what it takes to build voice agents, but maybe if not, let me start with a basic idea. The 3 big components in building a voice agent is first, hearing. You need the model that can hear the audio and convert it to text. Then the intelligence, the large language model, which can process based on the business instructions what to say. And the text-to-speech model, which takes this text that the LLM produces and makes audio and voice out of it. Claude fits squarely in the intelligence and is an incredible intelligence model. There is, I'm sure, again, you all know Claude, but I want to give you, like, from a voice perspective, how we think about Claude models that are available in Vapi. Claude comes in like 3 big shapes. I mean, there's now 4, Fable as well. So that's exciting as a feature. In voice domain, there's 3 big models that we see deployed. Haiku is like anything that's like tier 1 support. Just calls come in, you want to quickly answer something, you want to collect a quick survey, just the most like cost-effective model that still will follow your guardrails. Sonnet is this incredible combination for, as an enterprise, you want a model that will follow your guardrails, that will stay on script, do like a multi-step execution, and still is like fast enough. Sonnet fits right in that like bucket, and it's just like an amazing model to talk to. Opus, we usually don't recommend deploying it in voice agents. The thinking is it takes too long, but it's an incredible model for post-call analytics and post-call workflows where calls is just one step in most people's businesses. After the call, you need to update your CRM. You need to maybe do some call sentiment. There's just a lot of post-call workflow that needs to happen. And Opus is an incredible model for achieving like high degree of accuracy in those workflows. I think I talked through a little bit, but to really underline like why is Claude suited uniquely for voice AI, and like where we see Claude deployments versus like any other deployments, is this respect guardrails piece. Like primarily when you're a business and you're deploying in use cases where it's very critical that your agents respect the boundaries that you set for them, no one does that better than Claude. I think we've all experienced the magic of like the personality where it feels really great to talk to. So people notice that also in voice agents, like conversational tone, like stays like it feels fun to talk to, even when it's off script slightly, and then just like the reliability of these workflows in multi-step. This is very, very real. It's amazing and insane how many people are using Claude on Vapi, and what are the breadth of use cases that we see in deploy to production. Sales win back, and I bet for a lot of you have tried to build these things as well, and you've been surprised at like how easy it is to get started. Sales win back, inbound device support, collections, healthcare, lead qualification, all very critical workflows for businesses that they want that reliability, that like guardrail specification. Just over the last 30 days, I think we've done close to 5 million calls over like thousands of agents, thousands of orgs, like very multilingual. So I'm sure he's experienced this on the other side as well, but just wanted to shout out like how amazing it is to see this widely deployed. And now I wanted to spend some time like talking through specific use cases that we see in production. Number 1, Amazon Ring. This is one of my favorite deployments. They tried 40 different vendors to go live for their voice agent in their call center use case, and they couldn't. It was just too hard. Voice AI, I think we'll cover this later, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of questions in Q&A. There's just so many things that go into getting to production. The latency, the integration of the telephony systems. They tried all that, and on Vapi, leveraging Claude, in 2 weeks, they went to production for 100% of their support volume. Over the last like 3 months, it's been, just insane, like millions of minutes, like hundreds of thousands of calls. And the CSAT is like close to or meeting human. And it also keeps improving. So just an amazing case study to showcase the enterprise grade readiness of Claude. I don't think Anthropic could be satisfied with a production grade experience without the Claude intelligence. And then the ease of the platform in getting them to live to production at Vapi. Another one that I wanted to highlight was Kavak. I love this use case because it's like revenue generation. They're a LATAM auto marketplace, very similar to Carvana, if you've heard of Carvana. They do, to be honest, they have hundreds of workflows on Vapi. They have 250 employees in their company that build on Vapi. Almost everyone there is like an agent builder. They have a lot of workflows, but if I was to tie it together into what they've achieved, every customer that comes in, they will follow up with them. They're proactive. They will call them. They will text them. and just try to build a relationship. Imagine you come to the website, you want to book a rental, but maybe, or you want to buy a car, and you go into the website, but then you fall off because it's common to get distracted. But you maybe fill the form. They will follow up with you. They will give you hey, I think this might be interesting to you. So just that specifically the personalization that they're putting in and leveraging kind of the Vapi platform to make it easy to deploy these voice agents that again, reliably at scale, they have 2x their revenue. That's just an insane number to me. The fact with this AI transformation, as a company, they're making 2x more money and reducing their cost of acquisition of each customer by 50% because they're converting so many more customers. I think it's an incredible aspect to me, what the future will look like when these companies, they feel they finally have a human interface, I'm talking to a person. So that's Kavak. Another one I wanted to highlight for uniquely because of how long their calls are. So this is a consumer rental company. Similarly, people come in, they want to sign up, for them. And they build an agent that will guide them through that flow. They're running I think on average 5 minutes calls, which is, to be clear, a lot. Most calls are less than 2 minutes. So there's a very complex multi-step workflow. At any point, there might be complications that people might run into edge cases, and just leveraging Claude's ability and Sonnet's ability to keep that, really help those customers through the complexity. And same thing, just million plus minutes deployed and seeing a bunch of adoption in the last couple of months in the volume. I wanted to show a bit of demo.
Hey there. This is Alex with Vapi's ride booking demo. I can get you a ride booked in under a minute. Ready to give it a try?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Where should we pick you up?
I'm outside the ferry building right now.
Got it. I have the ferry building. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. And where are you headed?
I'm headed to the airport.
Just to confirm, I've got the airport as your destination. Which airport? And do you have a terminal preference?
Yeah, I'm headed to Oakland Airport, Terminal B.
Okay, so that's Oakland Airport, Terminal B. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Let me pull up the price for you real quick. Perfect. That comes to $22.87, and a driver can be there in about 3 minutes.
I actually have my skis. Could you get an XL, please?
No problem. Let me grab the price for the XL real quick. Perfect. The XL comes to $32.02, and a driver can still be there in about 3 minutes. Want me to book it?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Booking that now. This will take about 5 seconds. Almost there, just locking in your driver. You're all set. Diego will pick you up.
So what I love about the demo is a bunch of things. First, it's fast. It's the latency is amazing. You feel like you're talking to a person. It's boom, boom, boom. Amazing, great experience. Second thing I love is, I don't know if you noticed, but the human changed their mind, And the idea of you need a model that can reliably take, just changes and know what to do. So that's I think where I love Sonnet. It is very efficient with its thinking. It will know when to not think, when to just speak, versus when to maybe needs to spend a bit of time. And this just felt very fast, where it's okay, let me run that tool call. The tool call comes back. The agent will speak something, let people know. So just that reliability of those tool calling, the latency of it, the efficiency of it. So those are a couple of things that get me excited about the future here on voice agents. And I think there's a bunch more. So I want to get Marius to talk about what Anthropic is cooking up.
Thank you, Nikhil. Yeah, that was a sick demo. Super cool to watch. I've seen a demo before, but it's always a pleasure to kind of rewatch it and see how smart these agents have become. In terms of future, I think we're super excited for Vapi and Anthropic to partner up together and bring a true human experience for our voice AI builders. First of all, Anthropic is going to keep releasing new models and new better models. And Vapi will be the first ones to get access to them and to integrate them in their platform. Number two here, I think the models, the more the models get better, the more interesting strategies we're going to have to use them. One example is the advisor strategy that we recently launched in our API, where a larger, more intelligent model comes into rescue when needed. And we would love to see that more in voice AI as well. And ultimately, what we want to unlock is just more capable agents. And what I mean by that is agents that can remember more things, that can be more personalized, and that can keep getting better. There's this process of like the idea of self-improving, and we want to automate that away. And with that, I would love to kick off the fireside chat. And I have like a few questions for you, Nikhil. And then we have a bunch of questions for the audience. So plenty of time to answer. So first one here, the first thing I want to ask you about is the platform. So we know that a grade model alone may not always automatically imply a great agent. What does the platform underneath actually do on a live call, and why is that important?
I think this is probably the question I get asked the most. Like, why can't I just use the models directly? It's the simplest answer is like, you could buy like CPUs and RAM and plug it into your home socket and like run servers, but AWS just manages all the operational aspects behind the scenes for you, and you don't have to. It's similar with like voice agents. The telephony systems that we are integrating with are like decades old. PSTN, SIP is older than internet. So managing the aspect of like, how's the audio coming in? How's the audio getting encoded into all the formats that like the SSD models might need, managing the latency for SSD models, falling them back if there's something goes wrong, if the model needs to reason, maybe it needs more CPU. So all those operational aspects that go into the infrastructure, I don't understand why as a business you would want to take care of it. You probably just want to offload it so you as a business can focus on the agent design, where you bring your prompt, you bring your skills, and you're good to go. It automatically connects into your call centers. It automatically knows how to like transfer to your human when you need it to. And also, honestly, makes it easy to get these models to a place where they're ready for production. Because as we know, there's a lot that goes into like making them conversational and fluid. And all those learnings are already baked into the platform, which you can customize, which you can take away. So that's what I see as like platform. It's just like solving that problem of activation 0 to 90, and like for your job is to go from the 90 to 100 and bring that agent magic for yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, it is really delightful to build with voice agents with Vapi. I've done it myself, and it's an amazing developer experience. You guys did an awesome job there.
Yeah.
In terms of prompting, how much of a production agent is the prompt for voice agents?
And I think I also am curious to hear your thoughts on this one, and like as to how Anthropic thinks about prompting for different modalities. That's internal alpha on that. For our side, yeah, we see a huge difference between like a good prompt and a great prompt. There's like, I think a funny benchmark that we did last week where we had a similar objective, which was like book an appointment, but we made a good prompt and then we made a great prompt. The difference was like 2.5x. So a great prompt spoke 2.5x less things. It was like tighter. It just knew what the right thing to say was. It didn't confirm when it didn't need to. Those very tight details matter a lot for the experience. And I mean, one, it just like is cheaper because you're losing less tokens. And B, it's like shorter. So like it's a better experience for a customer because they're done faster. So we see a big difference in like making the prompt really tight for voice agents across for your workflow. But I'm curious to hear like how is Anthropic thinking about different modalities and like prompting there?
Yeah. I feel like what you said is like very generalizable to agents everywhere. Our job is to kind of encourage and help Claude users to keep a tight prompt hygiene. And we've seen that more recently. Smarter agents need less prompting, less corner cases, and overall, because they're better at following instructions. If you do have conflicting instructions in your prompt, that becomes a little bit more problematic. So we're kind of like guiding people to kind of put their prompts into Claude and ask Claude to surface more conflicts and issues, so they can kind of keep trimming it up. There's a world where prompts keep getting bigger the more instructions and the more guidance you add, but like nobody really takes the time to kind of trim it down and clean it up. Just best software engineering practices apply to prompting as well.
Yes. There's actually a question I'm looking at in the Q&A that really relates to this, and I think it'd be good for us to spend some time there. It's like, hey, Nikhil, we're an agency and provide voice agents to enterprises and use Vapi to create these agents. When creating agents, do you recommend building them with a script, or do you recommend setting the goal and building the prompt around it? How do you, and if the latter, then how do you account for situations which are not planned and agent does not have info about? What do you think, Marius?
Yeah, I would love to hear your answer, but my 2 cents here are around, models getting better at writing prompts. And I feel like we're not all the way there, but we're kind of closing that gap. And
yes.
Hopefully with newer and smarter models, we can get there. But curious to hear how you think.
Yeah. I think for the test that we did, similar to what you said, I think models are definitely using them as a co-pilot for writing prompts is already a great idea, and maybe they'll even come with like more amazing innovations. What we did, last time was the when people prompt with the exact script, it actually performs poorly because the exact script doesn't give model enough flexibility to keep the conversation human and conversational and like just go with the flow sometimes. So designing the prompt around like, here's your overall objective, and then building guardrails on it. Like, what are things that you don't want the model to do? Like, hey, like your goal is to help people, to qualify people for insurance. Here's the things I want to gather. Some rough guidance, like maybe go in like alphabetic, like go in the order of these questions. Don't give medical advice. Don't do this. Like just setting up like areas where it shouldn't go. Gave just, I think the experience of the model is just getting so much smarter at like talking and achieving the goal. We are finding to be working very well. So I love that question. I think it's also changes probably with like, the model level as well. And we haven't tested that yet, but maybe it's something around with.
I think that would be like a good segue. I really wanted to ask you these questions about guardrails, and you touched upon it a little bit, but I'd love to hear like how do we build guardrails, and what are the responsibilities of the model and the platform?
Yes. So one thing I love about Anthropic is they have very strong guardrails. I think Sonnet by default will just not refuse a lot of prompt injections, just refuse a lot of like out of the box things. Similar to like, I'm sure you probably get this question answered, like, hey, why would you use Anthropic versus like some open source model? And like there's so much baked into these APIs, which are amazing. Not having to worry about the agent like doing something illegal is huge. It's a great, so that's a starting point where I love the base guardrails that these models comes in. But for businesses, they need more, obviously, like for their domain specific guardrails. What we recommend people is 2 things. Number 1 is specific prompt section, which tells the model like what are the no-go guardrails, like what are areas that the model should not go. It works effectively well, like very effective. The model understands like these are things that it shouldn't touch, and the latest generation models are very good at instruction following on those. Number 2 is within the platform, you can set up security policies. So what we would do is run like deterministic code and deterministic evaluation where the user says something and you can run like a regex parser. Hey, like, is this safe? If you want to be really secure, you could run like an actual LLM, like a model evaluation before you send it to the model. But we find that just adds too much latency for voice, unfortunately. So either you need to build like deterministic regex type inputs, which should cover a lot of cases if you find like people are running to the same, like people are exploiting in the same way. Like asking for discount is a good example. Like you can just like regex forward discount and have like a generic response for it. And then like using the model and having a dedicated section for guardrails.
And curious, Sarah, what are the industries where people care a lot about guardrails? How do you?
Healthcare would be number 1. There is $1,500 fine for each call where you might mess up. Even something simple as like giving them medical advice. If you accidentally give them like, hey, you should take Tylenol, no problem. That's like a no-go. So it's a pretty strict domain, healthcare. Fintech is similar where like you can't tell people like, hey, what stock to buy. That's a pretty gray no-go area very clearly. So all the regulated industries, but healthcare being at the top for us. I don't know if do you have any advice for latency? Because I know a bunch of people ask us that. Like, Vapi is great with Claude. Do you have any recommended settings? Latency is one of the best performance. We really struggle to dial in the human conversational experience. Like, how do you recommend running Sonnet, like low thinking, no thinking? As these new models are coming, like, what do you recommend people do?
Yeah, totally. I would say definitely your control there is the effort level, which is like low, medium, and high. And I think low would work better for a voice AI application these days. Another thing that you should keep in mind is that the biggest latency comes from like the number of output tokens. So if you can find a way to like reduce the output, also using caching and all those strategies that are very well known, but like focusing on the output tokens is key. And in general, like we are making our models better to the point that I like to think that, and this is just my personal impression, that the new Sonnet is just as good as the previous Opus. So you always kind of like do a one-step change every time we launch a new version, and you will get like low latency models with the same level of intelligence as the previous big model.
It's a similar question on like Claude. I'm curious. For calls that are lasting long, for like long sessions, do you have any specific tips maybe on how to ensure the model doesn't lose context and forget important information? I can share what we see, but I'm curious if you've seen that, or you have specific tips that you give people around like long running sessions.
Yeah, totally. That comes. That question comes up at times. I think what we do is, and it's one of the strategies that we do for a Claude Code as well. We have this idea of like a system reminder that you can inject alongside with the user message. And that's just basically kind of like reinforcing what's important to the model, because yes, it can get lost in the field.
That's a good point. And yeah, I think just to highlight to people, like within Vapi, you can also do that where they give you ability to live call inject like any message. So through a webhook, like you're getting events on what's happening in the call, like live transcript, live conversations, or you can even get live audio. At any point, you can live call control and inject, I think what Marius said, like a reminder of a system. I was trying to think if there's anything else I've seen people do well. Usually, I've seen models perform, like Sonnet at least, like perform really well on like even like 30-minute. Like I've seen calls that are up to like 2-3 hours sometimes. They work really well. It really depends on like how crisp and clear your system prompt is. Kind of what we talked about, where setting up the objective very clearly. Like these models just want to hit their goal. So helping it very crisply know its goal, it helps it, I think, we stay fluid across that multi-hour session.
I have a one question that I saw this in the audience I wanted to ask, because I thought it's super interesting. So like Austin asked, what is the best practice for AI to hand off calls to humans mid conversation? Like, how do you ask the full conversation context? Totally. How do you do a live rep? So the customer never repeats themselves, and what are some signals that you should trigger the handoff?
I mean, this is where I shill the platform, because you get this baked in Vapi. This is one of the definitely a tricky point in voice AI agents, managing the handoff between human and AI. There is something that exists for it. It's called warm transfer, where within the SIP protocol, you can, when you transfer a call to a human, you can send a data packet to the system through a SIP info, where that data packet will show up on their screen. It requires a bit of integration and engineering. That's why it's an API. Like, we are a pretty open platform. You can find this in the docs. You can also do a tool call. So before, you can tell the model, hey, before transferring to a human, can you make a tool call that maybe gives the information to some system where you hold, and the human looks at the information. You can also get the agent to talk to the human before transferring the customer. So there's a bunch of optionality here. and it's all exposed within the platform and should be pretty easy to try. Another question I was looking at, and Marius, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, what's the difference between the architecture of a voice AI agent and a chat agent? When you're internally advising people, like, hey, build chat agents, build voice AI agent, like, what differences do you see?
Yeah. I mean, at the core, I feel like it's just latency and snappiness. I feel people have more patience when talking to chatbots, and a variety of options of how to consume responses from chatbots, right? You can maybe send them a file or send them like an image. There's more like a room there to play with. With voice AI, it's just like a lot more type and a lot like lower latency, and the responses have to be very precise. Like you can just have, I did have this experience the first time that I set up my voice AI agents, where you like the AI, the voice AI model would just read a paragraph of text, and that was like not very useful unless you consume it through a chatbot. Yeah, curious how you think about this.
I think that kind of gets to the heart of it, where there's no space. Like voice, you got to speak. You're always speaking. Everything else is like secondary to making sure like you're engaging the customer. The first thing came to mind is when people are building chat agents, they don't think about latency at all. Like it's very common people come with like their chat architecture. They'll have tool calls that are take 10, 20 seconds. But you can do that, but like that's how long sometimes like half the call length. So the customer is just like waiting around. So optimizing our system even internally. So it's like a full end-to-end problem. And that's where we recommend people like start with latency as a constraint and then give themselves permission to go higher latency when they really need to in the chat interface, but design primarily for low latency so that your architecture is ready for voice. Yeah, that's primarily latency. There's other things as well. For example, like long-running tool calls we talked about, but you can't have like very complicated sub-agents as well. Like this idea of like you send these research agents and it's like searching over and multi-step. That needs to be done in a completely different pattern. We're talking about the advisor pattern, where it's like long running, it's happening in the background. But then you need to design the UX for the customer to be able to do other things. But people don't consider as well. In chat, people do very single-threaded. Like I'm talking about doing the one thing at a time. But in voice, while some workflow is running, you can design the UX to enable other things like, oh yeah, while we're waiting for this Uber ride, can I like, I just saw like you have this, you go between your home and work every day. We have this like pass we can enable for you that makes it like 10% cheaper to schedule a Uber every day for you. It's like finding those opportunities to keep it conversational, like how a human would, while there's like something happening. Is pretty important in the voice UX.
Totally. All right. I have a good one for you. IVR versus voice AI. He's asking about market share between the two systems and like how early are we with enterprise adoption of voice AI agents?
Totally. I was looking at that one. That one's good too. Also, I got another one for you after this. I think it's so early. Like I think maybe one thing that will help people anchor themselves. For the past like 3 years, I've looked at the number of CSRs in US. This is call center representatives. Marius, I'm actually curious, like, what would be your guess of how many CSRs are in America? I'm curious how far off.
Okay, in America means they have operators hired in the US.
Yes, yeah, these are people employed in the US as a CSR.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. 1,000, maybe?
2.5 million, 2.3 million.
I was way up.
I know, it's crazy, right? People don't realize like there's so many CSRs in America. And call centers, the market is already, first of all, massive and huge. It's like 500 billion plus. So there's that number over the past 3 years hasn't changed at all. I remember Anthropic has this eval around like GDP eval as well. Like how hard it is to actually, move the needle to actually do a full job. So we see this in voice AI agents a lot as well, where they're taking on workflows, they're taking on tasks, but there's still so much escalation for humans, and the humans are leveraging, going to higher and higher leverage, and these businesses are doing it more and more. So right now we're at the very, very early innings, to be honest, of this transformation. I think the future in 5 years is pretty clear to people, you call in and it's like Jarvis on the other side, right? Like it's like you can do everything for you, help you in every way. I would guess like in terms of adoption, we're less than 1%, but even that would be actually. We have this number. So we have this number of like how many minutes runs on Vapi from the world, and I think it's like 0.1%. So it's very early innings, and I think majority is still IVR or people even on-prem. So there's a lot.
It's so crazy to hear, given that you guys are like the leader in the voice AI space.
Yeah, I know.
Covering 0.1%. That is
wild. It's so fun. This is like the main chart we have. Everyone who comes into our office sees that. It's like there's so much to do. This one I think is a good one because you spend a big part of your life doing this. What is the best practice to test voice agents, Vapi calls besides manually calling? How can people test the voice agents? What is your recommendation?
Yeah, I have some ideas here. That's kind of like the premise that we started our previous startup on, evaluating these voice AI agents. I think we started with like red teaming and kind of like trying to figure out like where the edges are, and it's not too different than red teaming like a chat agent. Like what we kind of like ultimately ended up with is just creating these like automated workflow of testing a voice AI agent. So you would look at the main agent script. Let's say you have like a customer support agent and see all the things that it can do or is not allowed to do. And based on that, you can extract a bunch of scenarios, right? And on these scenarios, we kind of turn them into an evaluation set, and you would automatically kick off a voice agent that is calling your main number and is like trying to like reproduce that scenario and maybe book an appointment on a Sunday night, or maybe do something that is not allowed. And we're trying to like get as much coverage as we can just with those test cases. And it's it really gives you the confidence once you have enough coverage that your agent is going to be doing the right thing in production, because it used to be the case that we were a little bit more aggressive when it comes to like a red teaming than the real customers were. Like the real customers usually want like to solve their needs and their problem, but we were kind of like trying to like figure out ways to circumvent that. Curious, like if you have anything to add.
I think that covers it. Like you're the expert. This evals, right? Like that's what I heard in what you said. How do you? I think that by the way also leads to another, maybe the last one of the last questions. Like how do you measure? Like what's the metric that you measure these voice agents on? And give us examples of any failures and how did you manage to get the model improved? Like what came to my mind was one common failure we see is conflicting instructions. People will have this system prompt that works beautifully. Every day they look at calls, they see a failure, they add something to the model, like the system prompt. And over like months, this system prompt becomes like a kind of amalgamation of like things that they added every day without realizing what the full system prompt is. And the way we recommend people have a healthy agent is setting up those evals of like, I want the agent, like the metrics you would set is like, hey, what's the rate where a user had to ask twice for something? And that rate should be very low, like less than like 3% of calls should have something where a user has to ask for like something twice. CSAT, another score you can track. So there's like common failure modes that you want to set up metrics on, and then look at the calls where this metric is failing, and then find the root cause in the system prompt, and then hopefully build kind of an eval, as Marius was saying, that gives you coverage, so even before you get into production, that you were not going to cause regression for these metrics.
I know we're at the end. We have like 1 minute left, so I'm kind of like itching to ask you like one final question, because I'm super excited to hear the answer to it. Let's talk about future. And let's look like 3 years in the future.
Sure.
What does a customer conversation look like, and what should like teams and builders prepare for?
That's a great question. From our side, the thing that I think it's to me more and more clear, like AGI will be here, and especially as like a coder, like it will just be so capable. The thing that I'm excited about from like an aspect of voice, and maybe like just the future is we'll have Jarvis. I think we'll actually have like amazing agents where you can talk to. It feels like a person. You talk to them and you just do things. Like I don't want to use my laptop in like 5 years. I don't want to be like clicking, typing. I just want Jarvis. And we'll have that in a personal life, and we'll have that for every business, where every business will feel such a great experience to talk to. And obviously, Vapi lives on the business side, enabling these businesses to build amazing human interfaces. So that's what excites me. I know we're now over time, but love your thoughts, and maybe you can help us close off.
Yeah, I mean, Jarvis sounds great. Yeah, I'm fully bought into this. I'm like very, very excited to live through this. Thank you so much for coming. It was great having you here. Super fun chatting about voice AI. Thank you all for being here today.